Hi, I'm Gary DeWood, Clinical Director here at Spear. This lesson will teach you to assemble and use the artex facebow. We're going to use that facebow to mount casts on our artex articulator. Mounting the casts allows us to reference the upper teeth to the hinge axis point for that patient. The first part is the bite fork. The bite fork, we're going to attach some bite registration or some compound to it. And in this case, you'll notice there are two bite forks. One of them is disposable. It's a plastic piece. The other one is a metal one. And whichever one you choose, they both work beautifully. You'll notice they have a little bit different shape, and all that does is change the position of our tightener or our jig when we are ready to make this a rigid record. For this facebow, you'll notice the earpieces do not come attached, so we're going to have to attach those. You should have two earpieces in your kit, along with an earbow frame to which those will be attached. The jig itself is the one piece that is loose and floppy that we can make rigid. When we tighten that up after getting the earbow in the right position, it's going to allow us to take a rigid record back to our articulator and mount the casts. The third point of reference for this one is going to be a part that's going to lift up and sit at nasion. It's going to allow us to move in a little foam pad, set that against the nose, at the bridge of the nose. In fact, it can be flipped in one of two ways, and we'll show that when we get to the clinic, and allow us to create a third point of reference for this system. So now let's look at how the parts of the artex facebow assemble. We have a lot of parts with the artex, and once you've taken them all out of the case, the two earpieces will need to be attached to the frame, and they slide in like this, and then you would tighten this up. Patient's right, patient's left, tighten it up. So now my ear positioners are ready to be used. The third reference point attaches off to the side of center and then slide it in and come to the midline or the center. It doesn't matter that it's exact. If this is not already loose, loosen it and push this back out of the way. This one has a spring load, which allows you to put it in and actually put a little tension there, which will stiffen things up. I'm going to bring it back and tighten it a bit. Okay. Let's pick the silver bite fork to use. As I showed you on the parts, this is a disposable one already with compound on it. You could warm and use that. Actually, they're very useful. This would be one that you would use and then sterilize after use. The jig is going to attach from the front, and if you look, it's got a slot that it will slide into and then tighten up. Okay, and now this would be ready to go to the patient's face with. The bite fork, we would have already gotten the registration to the upper teeth, and it will then engage this and be tightened up. And now this is ready. If we were going to the patient, we could slide this in place and lock it up by tightening the jig. So we're ready to go to a patient and take a facebow with the artex facebow. So now let's take a facebow with Nick with the artex facebow. And we'll begin with our bite fork. So what I'm going to use is some bite registration material. And I'm going to go ahead and put some bite registration material in the molar areas and then in the incisor area. This one doesn't have a centering line, which means that I just need some material in the area. So we'll go ahead and get some on here. And all I really want to do is make sure I smear enough down to kind of hold it down in the opening. And then what I'm going to do is come in and position this and hold it in just so I have the indents of his teeth. Now I don't want him to bite on this. If he bites on it, what might happen is he's going to tip it. I wouldn't be aware of that tip, and now I would have a mismount on my upper. So I'm going to hold it until this sets. It takes about 30 seconds for this bite registration material to firm up. Once it's totally firmed up, we'll pop it out, make sure we have really nice indents, and then we can move to attach our earbow to the bite fork. And that feels reasonably set. I'm going to look. I have very nice indents. I've got incisal edges. I've got teeth back here. I'm going to pop those to position. And again, it goes right back into position. I'm going to lay this back here again. And what I'm going to do now is take two cotton rolls. And what I'm going to do with the cotton rolls is we're going to have them stabilize this. Because remember, I asked him not to bite. So let's go ahead and line this up where we had it. There it is. I'll cross over at the premolars on each side and ask him to bite down. Go ahead and hold that for me, Nick. Now, if material had come through so that he couldn't bite, in other words, he would go to close, he would tell me he couldn't feel that and I could move this, what I'd do is go ahead and open. I would take a lab knife and just trim off any excess material that was sticking down too far in here. Now, that's not common with this one, but if it's in the way, you'll know because you'll be able to move the bite fork. In this case, it was very stable, so we're going to go ahead and lock that in again, Nick, and I'm going to have you bite down. Go ahead and close on that again, and he's right in the cotton rolls. This is extremely stable. We're ready to grab our assembled fork. I'm going to tip it up in the air so that I'm not shoving something at his face. And what I want to do next is take the jig. Here's the attachment to the bite fork. So as it's tipped up, I'll now attach this to the bite fork, tighten it up. Now tip it in and ask him to help me. Could you reach up, Nick, and guide these little balls right into your ears like headphones? And what he'll do is as I close it very gently, I'm sliding it in, he's going to hold it. Okay. The third reference point here is Nasion, so I'm going to slide this in. In his case, I'll flip it this way and have you lower it just a little. There you go. You okay right there? Now, this is a little bit spring-loaded, so I actually could put a little force on it. It'll hold it quite nicely. You should be able to let go now. And now it's supported on his face. That's our third reference point. We're not sure exactly where we want this yet because what we want to take is this face bow standing up. But now this is stable enough that we can ask Nick to extend his legs out of the chair and we'll stand up and we'll finish adjusting the face bow in a standing position. So Nick is now standing with the Artex face bow, and as we did in the chair, we've got this loaded a little bit so that it's stabilizing this. We want this to be level, although this is third reference point. In this one, I may not get it level with the floor. Here, what I want to make sure I have is that this is nicely seated firmly in Nasion, and it is, and that as I move it, nothing moves. And then what I want to do is just make sure that I have this, look at this, make sure it's level this way. And if it is, then I would snug it up. Okay, I'm going to snug this a bit and then show you from the side. If you could turn and look at me now for a second, Nick, and you notice from the side that in Nick's case, this is pretty close to level with the floor. However, with this articulator, it's possible, depending on the person, that if Nasion was up higher or lower, this may not be perfectly level. And that is how this articulator is designed. Let's turn and face this way again. So again, I want to make sure I'm nice and level here. Ask him to hold that for me. Could you reach up and just hold the sides for me? And again, I'm going to firm this up nice and tight this time. Once I have it really snug, I'm going to take this third point, bring it forward, get it out of the way. Going to take it here, ask him to grab a hold of his cotton rolls. Could you grab those for me? I'm going to bring it out of your ears. I'm going to lift the piece out. And now what I'm ready to do is take this jig off, and we're ready to go to the mounting device for the Artex articulator.